You reach back with your mind, way back, decades ago. You become flooded with memories of the 80s and its music. You can feel the songs return to your heart, and it feels great. But those good old days not only feels distant, but something feels off, as if something has changed, as if something just ain't right anymore. 80s music that we hold dear to our hearts carries a whole different vibe. From singing loud, suicidal thoughts to racial and homophobic lyrics that would be impossible in today's music industry. The 80s gave us some of the most iconic songs ever, but most of them wouldn't survive in today's world. Whether it's outdated humor, controversial lyrics, or just a vibe that feels off, these tracks show how much our expectations for music have evolved. Back then, radio and TV could help make a song popular, but today, social media and streaming platforms set a completely different standard. But one thing's for sure, if these songs dropped today, they'd either be canceled, ignored, or be completely rewritten. So let's take a look at these musical time capsules and see why they'd never make it in 2025, with 10 80s music that would not be made today. The first song on our list at number 1, Dance With Me, by Reginald Bosen. Yes, I know, you're confused about whether it's a song or if we accidentally switched to a news channel. No doubt Reginald Bosen's Dance With Me is a fascinating product of time. Before he sang this song, he was a news anchor at ITN, who, out of nowhere, decided to switch from journalism to singing and delivered this masterpiece.
Move down, move round, move side.
If it is difficult to decide if the song is good or bad, just remember that Dance With Me ranked first in the bottom 30 list by British DJ Kenny Everett. Bosen delivers the lyrics like he's reading breaking news, straight from a teleprompter. While the song might feel out of place from today's standards, it is very much a reflection of the time. The spoken word narration over a disco backdrop was novelty then, as it created a distant character which can't be easily replicated today. However, today, music needs more than just an unusual concept to succeed. Listeners expect strong production, artistic authenticity and sincerity, and emotional engagement. The song's robotic spoken delivery and basic disco beat would likely struggle to find an audience in a world where music is shaped by complex compositions, innovative production techniques, and deep storytelling. Before we move on to number 2, if you're enjoying the thrill of flying down the slide of time like we do, hit the like and subscribe buttons so you can see more content like this. And now, we bring you another ill-fitting song from the 80s at number 2, the Birdie Song, by the Tweets. Don't bother waiting for the lyrics, this track doesn't have a single one. Back then, it was the perfect example of how certain unique tracks can capture a moment in time. Despite having no lyrics, it managed to break at number 2 on the UK singles chart in 1981 just because of its simplistic, appealing tune. It also held the place in the top 100 for 11 months from 1981. Trust me, this song was everywhere. Every birthday party, wedding function, and even children's get-togethers. However, what made it a hit back then is exactly what makes it feel outdated today. Even in the video for the song, the chicken dance that once made it iconic now comes off as cringe thanks to changing audience tastes. It's simple, with zero lyrics, once catchy, but now feels repetitive and dull. You know what's the music riz these days? Everything is expected to have deep meaning, and without lyrics, there's nothing to dive into. Unlike the 80s radio airplay and TV performances, streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube have created an environment where novelty songs don't gain traction in the same way they used to in the 80s. Looking back at 80s music videos, it's clear how much times have changed, not just in style, but in the way serious topics are handled. What once seemed powerful can now feel unfashionable or overly simplistic. Ebony and Ivory by Paul McCartney and Stevie Wonder was praised for promoting racial harmony, using black and white piano keys as a metaphor for unity. In the 80s, this message was seen as uplifting.
Ebony and Ivory live together.
But today, conversations about race focus on deeper issues like systemic inequality and lived experiences. For example, Little Sims, an introvert, doesn't just talk about racism, she explores its impact on mental health, self-identity, and historical oppression. Her lyrics go beyond protest. They analyze colonial history, societal expectations, and the emotional toll of racial injustice. This shift in music reflects how modern artists aren't just pointing out racism, but dissecting its deep-rooted effects, making their messages more layered and thought-provoking than before. Coming up next on our list is a song that might spark debate among audiences. Some 80s fans may find it nostalgic and refreshing, while others might see it as offensive or even something that would be outright canceled in today's music world. At number 3, Illegal Aliens by Genesis. Released in 1984, this band aimed for satire, attempting to highlight the struggles immigrants face. The music video, however, leaned heavily on stereotypes, featuring band members Tony Banks, Phil Collins, and Mike Rutherford dressed in ponchos and sombreros as they struggled to get their visas approved while trying to move to America. And here's the issue. When you mix stereotypes with real struggles, it stops being satire and starts feeling like mockery. The song received backlash back in the 80s, as critics didn't let it slide easily. Steve Spears of the Tampa Bay Times questioned whether it was one of the most racist songs of the 80s. On the other hand, Stephen Hyden from AV Club admitted that it was racist and highly offensive, but due to its irresistible melody, he still enjoyed the song. But if it were to be released today, it wouldn't just face criticism, it would be met with full-blown outrage, negative PR, and Twitter campaigns demanding an apology. Because today, we're having way more nuanced conversations about immigration, systemic barriers, and human rights. People are no longer entertained by outdated tropes that reduce an entire community's struggles to a goofy, over-the-top punchline. Today, artists are expected to do better to educate, raise awareness, and actually spark change. Next on the list is a song that came with controversy built in, at number 4. Suicide Solution by Ozzy Osbourne. Even when it was released in 1980, it faced major backlash. People accused it of glorifying suicide, arguing that its lyrics could push vulnerable listeners over the edge. Ozzy, however, insisted that the song was actually about the dangers of alcohol abuse, not self-harm. But you know what? In the present day, where conversations around mental health are louder than ever, lyrics like, "Why try? Get a gun and shoot," would be taken down almost instantly. In an era where artists are expected to be hyper-aware of their messaging, Suicide Solution likely wouldn't even make it past the first studio session without a major rewrite. It's not that there's no more artists that are telling it like it is. Plenty of modern artists tackle heavy topics. But today, they do it with more maturity, clarity, and responsibility. Songs that could be misinterpreted as promoting self-harm or recklessness now face intense scrutiny, as society has become more conscious of the impact music can have on vulnerable listeners. Another 80s music hit that didn't age well is number 5 on our list with Money for Nothing by Dire Straits.
You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working, that's the way you do it.
Released in 1985, Money for Nothing became a massive hit in rock culture, so much so that it even won a Grammy. The song was meant to tease the perspective of a working-class man watching MTV and resenting the wealth of rock stars. Lyrics like, "I can't stand these gay people," were intended to reflect the video's character as ignorant rather than endorse it. But sarcasm can be tricky, especially when offensive language is involved. Even during its initial release, the lyrics sparked debate, and some radio stations played edited versions of it. However, in today's cultural climate, the backlash would be far more intense. Today, the listeners pay more attention to the impact of words rather than the intent behind them, and the presence of a slur would likely lead to censorship, public criticism, and calls for accountability. While its commentary on fame and fortune is still relevant, it's the way that the message was delivered that would almost certainly cause it to be rewritten today. Coming in at number 6, Don't Stand So Close to Me by The Police.
Don't stand
Back in 1980, the Police released Don't Stand So Close to Me, and at the time, it was another masterpiece. But listening to it now feels a bit different. The lyrics tell a story about a teacher having feelings for a student, something that wouldn't be seen as just edgy anymore like it did in the 80s. Back then, people didn't question it much, but now, with more awareness around power imbalances and boundaries, this song wouldn't go unnoticed. Lyrics like "You shake and cough like Nabokov" faced particular criticism, with some people interpreting it as a sexual reference. While the song is still remembered for its catchy melody, its subject matter hasn't aged well. A track like this wouldn't just be controversial, but possibly wouldn't get released at all. Currently, lead singer Sting has stated that he will no longer perform the song, citing the sensitive nature of its themes. Now, if there's one song that defined the unapologetic boldness of the 80s, it's Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and it's number 8 on our list. From the moment it hit the airwaves, it was impossible to ignore, whether it was because of its infectious synth-driven beat or the waves of controversy that followed. At first listen, Relax sounds like an electrifying dance anthem, but its suggestive lyrics quickly raised eyebrows. BBC famously banned it from the airwaves, and many other radio stations followed suit. The ambiguity of its message left room for multiple interpretations, but let's be real, its meaning wasn't exactly subtle. The song's main hook, "Relax, don't do it when you want to go to it," was interpreted as a reference to sexual restraint or release. The music video featured erotic scenes of dancers clad in leather in an intense and wild atmosphere. Although the band publicly denies it and calls out critics for misinterpretation, today, in an era of heightened sensitivity to explicit content and media influence, a song like Relax would face even more scrutiny. While music continues to push boundaries, a mainstream release of this overtly provocative song could mean that it might struggle to gain traction without sparking a storm of backlash. Still, Relax remains one of the most iconic songs of the 80s, symbolizing a time when music wasn't afraid to challenge norms. It's proof that controversy can sometimes fuel a hit, but it also shows how shifting cultural standards can reshape the way we perceive once celebrated anthems. Lining up at number 9 is "One in a Million" by Guns N' Roses.
I needed some time to get away.
It's also one of the hot-button songs in rock history. The lyrics of the song target immigrants, minorities, and law enforcement. Although Axl Rose claimed he was expressing personal frustrations, the song's language was considered offensive and exclusionary, even at the time. Use of racial and homophobic slurs led to accusations against Axl Rose. Even critic John Pareles pointed out that this song seemed to appeal to white, heterosexual, and nativist sentiments, criticizing black people, immigrants, and gay individuals. And man, if released today, the track would be immediately condemned and likely pulled from streaming services. Modern audiences are far less tolerant of lyrics that promote harmful stereotypes, and platforms would face intense pressure to distance themselves from the controversy. What was once excused as shock value or raw expression would now be considered unacceptable. The song's aggressive tone, combined with its divisive content, highlights how much cultural attitudes have shifted. Now, the last but not the least 80s track that did work back then and will never work in today's era is number 10, "Don't Worry, Be Happy" by Bobby McFerrin. It was meant to be uplifting with lyrics like, "Say our rent is late, he may have to litigate. But don't worry, be happy, look at me, I am happy." Both audiences and critics loved it so much that it went on to win 3 Grammys in 1989. But over time, as music perception changed, the message of simply choosing happiness became hypothetical. Telling people to just smile through their struggles, ignore the reality of issues like anxiety, depression, or financial problems, is not the perfect message for today's society. Especially for those people facing such hardships. If released today, "Don't Worry, Be Happy" would likely be criticized for promoting toxic positivity. The idea that people should ignore their problems and simply choose to be cheerful is considered obtuse. In an era where mental health conversations are taken seriously, this kind of messaging feels outdated. What was once seen as a feel-good anthem could now be labeled as tone-deaf and out of touch with real struggles and life itself. And as in life, we evolve, so does music. Songs that touched our hearts have drifted from their hot spot over time, where they once hit a live nerve, and reflecting society as a whole, or in part. Music does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is move us, and move us in a special way. But humans, like society, changes. And when one changes, so does the other, simply because society is us. And we are society. There's no reason to fight it, but to just accept it and dance with the music that the artists of the current era provide us. While the music might make us dance today, it may help us see, with a bit of time, just how far we have all come. What do you think? Were these songs just products of their time, or do some of them deserve a second chance? Drop a comment below with the 80s song you think wouldn't survive today.